so thrilled to see you today and chat to you about your life in
Thank
7
you.
charms.
Thanks for having me.
So the first one is an absolute perfect replica in 18 karat gold of Big Ben. And I've drawn it in 18 karat gold, yellow. It's got diamonds around the 4 faces of the clock, and it is exactly all the texture, all the architectural markings as far as we possibly can, because obviously this is 3-dimensional and it's probably only about a centimetre big. But I've put on one side, as you can see, I've put London Calling, and you're going to tell me a bit about why we've engraved London Calling. But it is a locket, so the bottom opens. So the idea being that you could put a little ticket or you could put a little something in there. But tell me why, because when you said what charm, it was all about moving to London. So tell me a little bit about.
I grew up in Peterborough, and my mum and dad aren't from Peterborough. So my mum's from Ireland and my dad's from Scotland, and we lived in Peterborough, and it was, probably a very normal, average life. But I always wanted and had big stars in my eyes and dreams of getting to London. And before that, probably it was more around. My mum is very strict. So it was get an education, get your grades, get to university. And it was kind of presented to me, the world, as be a lawyer, be a doctor, be a teacher, be an accountant. And that was really it. I didn't know anything else about the world or life or any other opportunities, and I just went for law.
Were your parents lawyers or teachers or?
Absolutely not. So my mum worked 3 or 4 jobs around me, and my dad was an electrician, and so they were very, very focused on get to university, be the first one in the family, do that kind of have a better life, and the way to that was education. So I'm really not brilliant at any of the other subjects that would be required of me to do the medicine or any of that. So I went for law.
Just go back a bit. Are you one of one?
I'm the only child.
Oh, like me.
Yeah. So I'm an only, and my parents aren't together either. So that means even more focus just on me from each of them.
Yeah.
And a huge amount of pressure to be the one to do good and make good.
And you do feel that pressure from a very young age.
I mean, it's almost ingrained, I think. You just know that your responsibility is to go and take every opportunity and work hard and do well, get the grades. That was always kind of my mentality.
And you obviously did get the grades all the way through.
I did.
Unlike me.
Yeah, I did. But again, I didn't really know life. I didn't know what I know now. I didn't know other routes, opportunities. I went to a not particularly nice comp in Peterborough and did the work, but there was never anything else that I really understood was out there. In fact, it wasn't really until I went to university where you start to meet different people and you're like, wow, that's different. Everyone has had these different opportunities. And then got my degree, went to law school, all up north. So I went to Sheffield Uni, then I went to law school in York, and then I trained to be a solicitor in Newcastle. So it was all in the north of England, and I loved it, but everything was with a focus of get to London.
So did you come to London for, outings?
Always.
Okay,
so it was not very far on the train, and it always felt, the big lights and the opportunity, and it felt bigger, and I wanted to be part of it. And so I qualified, and the first thing I did was got down to London, and I've never left. I am still obsessed with London every day.
And you don't kind of feel any pull towards Peterborough or
Oh, I mean, no. I doubt anyone does. But no, I definitely do. I mean, my parent, like my mum and dad actually still live in different villages close by, and obviously I'll go to see them. But No way. Like, I never had that family network there.
Yeah.
My mum's family was in Ireland, dad's family was in Scotland. It's not like we had a support network around us. So I never felt that. And I'm from, I had a really close group of friends, and we've all come to London, and we all live down here in different parts of London.
Because one of my questions was going to be, why law specifically? Because my husband's a lawyer, and the reason he's a lawyer is because his father had a terrible fraud committed against him when he was, 14 or 15, and that's why he became a lawyer. So I wondered, in your case, was there something? But
it was truly just the professions that you hold in high esteem. I think if you haven't had opportunity, my parents were both from really big families and hadn't had opportunity, and my mum came to England from Ireland when she was very young, and so I think when you haven't had any of those opportunities, you think about the careers that you hold in high esteem, and you want that for your children. And so I think that was really the root of it. And obviously also, I loved Ally McBeal when I was younger. That was an obsession of mine. I used to watch it religiously, and I watched Murder One, and in my head that was what a career in law represented, and obviously didn't know that it doesn't.
When you left law school, did you know which bit of the law was interesting for you?
I don't think I did at that point. I was very, I am a very focused person. So I was very focused on what is the best route to London, truly. And it was quite strategic in that way. So I was thinking about where the biggest opportunities are, which areas of law kind of have the biggest cohort that they admit. So I was very focused in that way. I loved M&A. I just loved it.
M&A, for those people,
is mergers and acquisitions. Okay. So I weirdly loved being in the office at 3 a.m. Being part of that energy of doing the deal and learning about the business and being in the signing room, and I loved all of that. And so that was the area for me, I think. But I think it was a lot to do with that kind of adrenaline.
Yeah, completely. But I mean, so you went to Mishcon de Reya.
Yeah.
So did you apply to lots of people? I mean, how was that
really
journey?
Great question. I had 3 offers. I'd done it through a recruitment agent because that's what everyone told me I had to do. And I had 3 offers. And there was one incredible US firm, and they wanted to pay me more money than I had ever heard of in my entire life. And I couldn't get over it. I couldn't imagine earning that amount of money. And I went to meet the team, and everyone looked so miserable. And they were Blackberries, back in the era of Blackberries. Everyone was on their Blackberry, and I thought, I don't know if this is going to be quite right for me. And the other firm was kind of well known but quite dry. And then I met Mishcon, and they were so unusual, such an unusual firm, and I just loved them, and it was the right fit for me. And
so you went there, and how long did you stay there? Because I want to dig down a bit here to understand.
I was at Mishcon for not so long, maybe 3 years. Right. But I was working on one client in particular consistently. So I was always working for the same client. And they were doing lots of acquisitions, very exciting, and building. And then they were looking to hire a lawyer to go in-house to kind of do the consolidation piece.
Right.
So I went to join them. So I left Mishcon, and it was in biotech, very different.
Very different, my God.
And when all of a sudden, when I wasn't doing the M&A,
you missed it.
I missed it. It was less exciting to be doing biotech because it really was not something that I was super
so kind of
passionate about.
really, ignorant people like me. Can you just tell me biotech means what?
It was drug testing. Okay. It was every single stage of developing a drug, testing the drug, but not really human clinical trials. Okay. I mean, drug testing in terms of the capabilities and the structure of the pharmaceuticals that were being made.
So quite dry compared to M&A.
Quite dry for me, because I didn't have that passion. And then I got a call from someone at Mishcon who said, we've met this young guy. He's got an amazing business. He needs a lawyer. I think you should go and meet him. I think you'll love it. And I said, what is it? It's a dating website.
Ooh.
And I rang my mum, and my mum was furious. She was like, "You dare go and work for
Good
a dating
Irish Catholic.
Yeah, you dare go and work for a dating website." I said, "Well, I'm just going to have the meeting." So I went to meet the founder, and he was a young guy in an office in Denmark Street in Soho. And I walked in, and there were 35 engineers with headphones on, drinking Red Bull, writing code. I was like, what is this place? Everyone was in jeans and t-shirts, and I'm, wear a suit every day.
And your heels, and
work in Mayfair, and I've been living that life. And it was fascinating, and I loved it. And it wasn't just.
So did he take you on? He took you on as an in-house lawyer.
Yeah, as his lawyer. And it gave me the most amazing license because, of course, firstly, I was in a business which was tech.
And that business was?
Called Badoo.
Badoo, yep.
And this is before tech was even really a scene in London.
Yeah, that's why I was trying to get my head around the year.
We weren't really talking about it. They had just opened a Facebook office. That's how early it was in London, in Covent Garden. So it was very, very early.
Yeah.
And no one was talking about dating in the way they are now. So dating was really taboo, awkward. It was that thing where you'd watch TVAM and they'd do an interview and they'd be like, and they met online. That was the scenario that I felt I was walking into. And yet this product, when I first went, had 52 million users. It was more users than I couldn't comprehend. 52 million people were using a product I hadn't heard of before.
I'm absolutely fascinated. So 52 million users. At this point, do you have a boyfriend, husband?
I met, yes.
Was it an option?
I met my partner at work, so I had at Mishcom.
Oh, at Mishcom. Okay.
So
a lawyer.
So he's a lawyer, yes.
Yeah.
So that's because no one else is crazy enough to be working those hours.
3 o'clock.
So
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Else. That's not true. It's also because he's amazing.
Oh, whoops.
So we were it was this just most amazing combination of working on a product that felt quite secret because it was huge and no one really knew what it was, particularly in London. This was huge in LATAM. It was huge in Eastern Europe and continental Europe. So that's where Badoo really was known. And we just grew and grew, and I am nosy and started to ask lots of questions, but also acquire lots of functions in the business to report to me.
Yeah.
So firstly, back end, so HR and finance, but latterly BI and working on that side of life, and eventually became Andre, the founder's deputy CEO. So worked alongside him, and we built everything from there together, and it was the most insane journey of my entire life, but I loved it.
So exciting. I mean, extraordinary.
Yeah, it was so exciting.
What is BI, by the way?
Business intelligence.
Oh, thank you. I'm sure I should know all of this. I absolutely
so it's all of
don't
the
know
data analytics. It's all of the where are users engaging, how long for, that kind of insights into the business.
Insights. God, how fascinating.
Yeah,
absolutely fascinating. And then at that point, am I right in thinking you then went onto the board of Bumble? Because how did that work?
Yeah, so we started thinking about what we could do next at Badoo, and Whitney, who is the CEO of Bumble, was also thinking about what she should do next. She had just left Tinder in a public way, and so we reached out to her and we started building what became Bumble. So Bumble was part of the group. And I was on the board of both companies, and that was so exciting because Badoo was already huge, and we were doing incredibly well. We were growing. We were highly revenue generative, and Bumble was the opportunity to build something new and exciting with a different vantage point and a different angle, and became the gem.
I mean, bigger.
Yeah.
And it sold. Didn't it sold
so it
for how
became
many?
the top company, but it IPO'd 2 years ago for 13 billion.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Amazing.
Unbelievable.
Amazing.
So another charm here is you've said going out alone. You said it was a life moment, going out alone to build your idea.
Yeah.
So I've drawn that as a light bulb moment. And you'll tell me whether that was wrong or right. But I've drawn it as actually it's kind of two-dimensional. It's exactly as you'd expect a light bulb shape to be, new, modern, low voltage, etc. light bulb. But the shape is, so I've done it in white gold with little pavé diamonds set all around the kind of to denote the edge of the bulb. But inside a yellow gold three-dimensional little filaments, which obviously look like the filaments in a light bulb, and then it's a I don't know what the word is for that, but it's a kind of screw-in light bulb as opposed to the bayonet fitting, and that's at the very bottom is a upside-down set diamond, which is where it locates. But I've done it as a light bulb, really because I want to understand about how how you went from Badoo and Bumble to what will be your next charm.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, which will be Peanut. But can you just talk about a little bit how that all happened?
Yeah, I think that there was just this moment in time where life was extremely fast paced, but it was really exciting. So when we started building Bumble, my son was 6 months old. So I was living what felt like a dual life. So by day I was this executive and we're building really cool tech, and I'm in this amazing, we've upgraded to our Soho office, and we're living, we're really everything feels so high octane. And then by night I'm going home to my baby and trawling the internet for answers to why he doesn't sleep, or whether he's teething, or does anyone else feel slightly crazy because they can't sleep even when he's sleeping. I would be awake looking at pictures of him, like, what was that about? So all of those kind of feelings, and trying to look for reassurance from forums and other places that had been around for 15 plus years and felt quite stale by that point.
So what kind of, was that Mumsnet, things like that?
Those kind of, long established, very, very revolutionary at the time they were created, but
hadn't moved on.
Hadn't really innovated since. And so I was kind of living with this idea of, we really need to do a Bumble or a Badoo for, motherhood. And we really need to be doing this because I'm also surrounded in kind of daily life by these other women on a weekend at the playground or whatever, who are willing to put any amount of money behind solving problems for their kids, and they'll do anything to make them happier, smarter, sleep better, eat better, and
have an easier life,
and have a better life. But there's no product for them. So I was kind of living with it. But really, probably the light bulb moment was sitting with one of my girlfriends, and I said, you know what we should do? Actually, they really should just use the algorithms that we use for connecting people to date, and use it to connect mums. And she turned around, she wasn't a mum, and turned around and said, it would be really great if you just did that because you keep talking about it. And it was a light bulb moment at that point of, actually, why aren't I doing that? Why am I just sitting here moaning that it doesn't exist?
God. You were pregnant. So he was 6 months old. So you were pregnant. Was it easy pregnancy?
Actually,
combined with all of this stress?
With Finn, actually, the pregnancy was easy peasy in comparison to with my daughter. And also I didn't know any better, and also I was younger. So I just, kind of everything felt like quite exciting. And I was busy at work in a different way to when I was pregnant with Nuala, which was not just busy, I was running at a completely different speed. Yeah.
We're going to talk about that in a minute.
But with Finn, pregnancy was easy. It was actually after I had him, that's when it became harder. I don't even know now what I thought it was going to be, but I had a lot of issues around my identity and it not feeling.
Am I a businesswoman? Am I a mummy?
What
am I a wife?
And I don't even know how to talk to people anymore. Am I even interesting? Because actually, really, what I want to talk about is how many poos he's done today.
Yeah.
And it's that kind of. It's quite. It makes you feel quite crazy.
Yeah.
Plus, I wanted to say, I don't know how I thought this would feel, but it doesn't feel like I thought it would.
Do you remember what you thought it would feel like?
Well, I just thought it would be immediate love.
Know what to do.
Know what to do,
Yeah.
easy peasy. I'd been to an NCT class. They told me he was going to crawl to my boob to feed. Cool, newborn. I had all of these notions in my head, and then I had him, and he was a massive baby, and he seemed so angry with me all the time, and I really felt like I had no idea what I was doing, and he's the love of my life now.
Of course.
So
of course, but it's so interesting because there's never a convenient time to have a baby.
There's never a convenient time, and also no one who is generations above you, i.e. your mum, remembers what it's like. So they just can't, that you can't get it from your mum, your mother-in-law. You have to have people who are in it right at that moment. And I had none of my girlfriends had children.
But it's so, I do think it's really interesting because I think particularly now, kind of this, my one daughter's 30 and one's 25, but we've got careers, etc. And I'm like, there is never going to be a convenient time to have a baby. Not like they're trying to have a baby, but it's just worth knowing that you can't say, well, I'll do that then, and then I'll have a baby, and life's not like that.
Life is not like that. And actually, all of the things that we now know more about, I think, than we did, or certainly I did, and then that was publicly spoken about, we don't talk about conception or fertility challenges or fertile health. None of that was being spoken about.
Yeah.
So you don't know what's coming, and you can't plan for it in this kind of, so I'll do this, then I'll get to this point, then I'll take a break. It just doesn't work like that. So as I found out with Nuala. As I found
What's
out
the
with my
age?
daughter.
What's the age difference?
They're 5 years apart.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Well, that brings me on to your next charm, which was all about becoming a mummy, and so I've just drawn them as two little children. Two charms. One's a girl, one's a boy. I'm sure I shouldn't be saying this, but I've got Nuala in pink, and I've got
my favourite colour.
Finley in blue, they are two. Each one is an individual little three-dimensional doll. Their legs and their arms move, and Nuala's got this little pink sapphire skirt on, and Finley's got some blue shorts and a kind of like a football t-shirt. I've no idea if he likes football, but
He does.
and maybe this is a bit too. Whatever the word is.
No, it's perfect. It's actually what made me emotional when I saw it, because it's so perfect for both of them.
Well, then you can put their names on them. It would be so sweet.
It's gorgeous.
But how have you? I mean, this is probably a good moment to talk about how now have you managed, or are you managing to balance being a mummy, being, running Peanuts? How's it working?
I mean, that is so difficult. And I think someone said to me once, 1 is 1 and 2 is 20.
Yes.
And that is the best analogy ever. That is completely right. With Finn was very portable as a baby and as a little toddler. I took him everywhere. I had a trip in New York, he came to New York. I had to go to New Orleans, he came to New Orleans. Like, he was very portable. And also just quite easy in that way. My daughter has an enormous personality. And yeah, it's difficult with two. They have their own little lives. The age gap is quite large.
Yeah.
Finn is off doing football and cricket and whatever, and she still needs a lot of attention. She's only 3. She's going to be 4 next month, so she's only tiny, and she needs a lot of me. And the balance is non-existent. It's extraordinarily hard, and it's sublime to ridiculous, right? 1 minute you're just living in this moment thinking, God, I'm so blessed, this is my life. And then the next minute, the dog has done something on the carpet, and Nula's just spilled chocolate milk everywhere, and Finley's like, she's going to ruin my homework, and it's bedlam.
And the office are ringing saying you're meant to be in this meeting.
Exactly. And by the way, you've missed that Zoom, and it was Wall Street Journal, so I'm going to have to rearrange. And it's that kind of, it's all over the place. The best thing, I suppose, is, firstly, I couldn't do it without amazing support. My husband is amazing, and he really is super involved, and I wouldn't be able to do it without him.
Yeah.
But again, I don't have my family here, so I don't have that familial support. So it's about the support you build with good friends, and friends who are like your family, and really making sure that we have that. And I rely so heavily on that support. And also just trying not to beat myself up continually. I did that for so many years. It's so unproductive and doesn't do anything.
And also everybody feels it in every way in your life, don't they?
Totally.
If you beat yourself up, your children feel it, your office feel it, everybody feels it. Your husband feels it.
What's the point?
Yeah.
Because the consequence of it is that everyone either thinks, God, Michelle's a bit emotional today, not great, or I just don't really achieve anything because I'm busy thinking about, I should have done that. So I just try to accept.
But you never thought at any point when you had Nula, maybe I need to work less, or, I
just don't know how to work less, I think.
Well, it sounds like you've worked since you were...
Yeah, I don't think I know how to do that. Yeah. That's not to say I don't crash and have moments when I crash, I do. But I don't know how to do it. Yeah. And at least that my children will always know that, you have to work.
No, I'm with you. I mean, when we sold our business, I thought, it'd be great, I'll take some time off. And actually, it's in my DNA.
You can't help it. And you're so used to being and thinking and planning and dreaming. It's very hard to stop that.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know how to do that, actually.
I know, it's really hard. So I'm coming on to your next charm, which is a peanut. Which is a peanut. So I've designed this as the shell of a peanut. So very much three-dimensional, in rose gold, with tiny little light brown diamonds set just to catch the light. You can see it's partially open so that you can see two little pearls inside. And actually, so when I was thinking about this, this could have been a charm to represent your two children, because I thought that would be a lovely way, and perhaps less obvious way, to represent the two children. But because I really like the sound that jewellery makes, if you hold it, there will be just a tiny kind of little rattle of those pearls, just like you would on a peanut. Well, obviously, this is all about peanut, but can you just talk to me about why is it called peanut?
Yes.
And why is it pink? And then we'll come on to all the other things.
So I love that it was, it could be the two for the children, because Peanut is named after my son. So when I was pregnant, and it's that very exciting first pregnancy, and you read somewhere on some online forum that the baby is the size of a peanut. And so from then on, Peanut was the nickname for my bump, and my husband and I called it Peanut, and everyone in my office called it Peanut. And when I first had Finn, my gift from my office was a little baby grow that had little Peanut written on it. And so it was all about Peanut. I've even got, because I am a weird person, I had a spreadsheet, because that's what I do, of all the stuff I needed to buy for Finley before he was born. The spreadsheet is called Peanut, and very confusing when in the old days was searching for a different kind of spreadsheet for Peanut, and it was one to do with the business, and that popped up, and it's got the pram that I was going to buy and the cot, but everything was about Peanut.
I love the fact you had a spreadsheet.
Yes, I am that person.
Oh my goodness, I so wish I would be that. So that's that. Now we understand why it's called Peanut. I love that. And why is it pink?
So I really felt, and I have always felt, I am deeply, deeply feminine, and I love everything about femininity, and I've never ever shied away from it. I don't ever feel that I've wanted to be any other way or act any other way, and I've never actually felt pressure to. I think that's a massive gift from my mum, who has always kind of celebrated and told me I could do anything. Anything is possible. My mum has an amazing phrase: "You've been raised like royalty." That's what she says in Peterborough. But that's her. Yeah. So she's always felt like, you've had all these opportunities that I could never have, and you can be you, and don't apologize for being you. You can absolutely be you and be feminine and enjoy that. You don't have to pretend to be anything else. So with Peanut, I felt that every product that was out there that was aimed at motherhood had this strange green, like a clinical green colour to it.
Really?
And I think it was to do with trying to represent a medical opinion or having that feeling to it. So it was either green or it was something that was more an orange or a blue. And nothing was pink. This is before millennial pink was a thing.
Yes, yeah.
Nothing was pink. And I love pink. Pink is something that has always been accented everywhere in my home. I love it. My daughter now loves it. I'm thrilled to say. And it's just a colour that makes me feel uplifted and happy. And I thought, do you know what? There's no product that is pink. We're doing pink.
Tell me a little bit about Peanut, about at what stage you start with Peanut, and at what stage is it no longer relevant?
So Peanut is about connecting women across different life stages. So the first of those life stages is really around fertility. So thinking about trying to conceive, or you're trying to conceive. Maybe you're thinking about your fertile health. Maybe you already know that you have challenges and thinking about IVF or adoption or surrogacy. And it operates in a walled garden. So if you're in that part of Peanut, you will never see anything else to do with pregnancy or motherhood. You'll only see women who are at that same life stage.
Yeah.
And then the next part is Peanut pregnancy, which is where we started with pregnancy and new mums. And similarly, you'll see other women who are around the same stage as you. If you're in the third trimester, if your baby's 6 months old, it's really about finding those kind of key life moments. And then as your child gets older, you'll see other women with older children. And more recently, we've launched for perimenopause and menopause, again in a walled garden. So you won't see all the content to do with motherhood or fertility. It's just about seeing other women who are experiencing the same symptoms as you or at the same stage of perimenopause or menopause. So that the wider vision is that any woman can use Peanut to connect with other women across those different life stages. Because I think as women, we experience these really seismic moments, and often we don't even know anything about it. And
you don't even know if it's normal.
You don't know if it's normal.
No.
You don't want to ask the question.
Yeah.
You have to be really brave to say to even your best girlfriend, by the way, did this happen to you?
Yeah.
And this is a community of women where you can ask anything. There's nothing too gross. That's what we always say at work. There's nothing too gross to ask on Peanut. There's nothing too graphic. There's nothing that will, gross anyone else out. You can ask everything, because it's only by enabling women to talk about it we normalise it.
Yes.
So that's Peanut.
That's amazing. How many users have you got now?
We have 3.5 million monthly users on Peanut across the US and the UK.
And you started it when?
2017 we launched.
Absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
Actually, I've got to ask this. How do you monetize something like that?
So we actually only started monetizing last year.
Yeah.
So in that true tech fashion, we were obsessed with building the product and building the community. And actually, just given the market last year, I was like, let's just get to that point where we are cash flow positive and we have that independence. So we monetize through a freemium model. Users pay to accelerate their experience on the app. So you might want to make a friend, but you can pay to do that quicker, so you can see who's waved. It's a free, so everything is still free to use, free to join, but there are certain things you can pay to accelerate. Okay. And it's basically what I did in dating, and works incredibly well. Yeah.
So what's interesting is not an advertising model.
It's not an advertising model. Yeah. And that's not because I don't think there is a place, and we do work with brands in a very specific, strategic way. But when you have women talking about what they're talking about on Peanut, as soon as you talk about the fact that you've just had a miscarriage and then you're served a Clear Blue ad, is the moment that you distrust that platform completely.
Yeah, completely.
So we do work with brands, but it's very thoughtful, and it's either on web, so where the editorial content is, or it's a more integrated campaign and approach where we think what we have to say is useful to our users.
So the next charm, well, I really enjoyed this charm actually. So you said, when I asked what are the life moments for these charms, you said the life moment was give us the money.
Yeah.
Fundraising, you said, whilst heavily pregnant. So I was like, okay, well, what am I going to create here? Anyway, I couldn't resist. So I've done it as a piggy bank.
I love it.
And I've done it, so it's 3-dimensional, perfectly kind of quite cartoon-like piggy. And he is completely encrusted in savorites, green savorites, which are different little semi-precious stones. And he's got little black eyes and a little black nose and a wiggly tail. And he's also got, you can see, he's got a little slit at the top, so that to put the coins in. And I've actually put a coin on the end of a little chain so that it can go in and out actually, but because I haven't put a bung on him. But I mean. I just love to know, tell me about this, because this is obviously about the fundraising.
Yeah.
And you have raised an enormous amount of money. I mean, you've raised 23 million, I think, so far to date. But just talk me through fundraising, and I think you were pregnant, and so therefore, how is that going?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, this is incredible and actually is so important for me just every day, because I'm always thinking about not just show me the money in terms of investment, but also show me the money in terms of the valuation of the business.
Yeah.
Women are responsible for 75% of household decisions on spend. We control the decisions. We outspend men by 66% per capita between the ages of 18 and 40, which is all to do with fertility and pregnancy and motherhood in those early stages, actually.
Is it?
And so when you think about where we hold this power, and now where we're expected to work and contribute to the economy in a way that we never have before, the fact that only 2% of venture capital goes to women is bonkers. In 2020, which was that most insanely frothy year of these valuations, which were just over the top, insane valuations, women raised less of the pie than ever before. I think it was something like 1.7%. It's so depressing. And there's so many reasons for it, including not enough women have check writing capability. So even if you are an investor, are you an investor who can write the check? Are you an investor who's on the investment committee who can make that decision? So it's there. It's also a cyclical problem, because if we don't have more women who have successful exits, they don't invest in funds to put pressure on the funds to invest in more women.
More women.
And so it's a cycle. Unless we can invest in more women to have an exit, to invest in the fund, to say, and by the way, what are you doing on this front and this front? Yeah. It will never improve and it will never get better. For Peanut, I was doing a fundraise. I was heavily pregnant with Nuala. I had a really hard pregnancy with Nu.
Sick.
So sick. The most sick I've ever been in my entire life, continually.
That's why he's green.
Yeah, he felt it.
He's green.
I would pull over cabs on the side of the road to vomit on the way to a pitch.
God.
I mean, it was really, really brutal. And we closed the round, and I had Nuala, I think, 3 days later.
Oh my God.
And it's just that amazing moment where you're so elated that you've had the baby, but also that the sickness stops. It was just this amazing moment. It stopped immediately. It was incredible. But that was hard.
So having said all of that, how did it feel? I'm fascinated how it felt to go to fundraise for Peanut, for something intrinsically feminine and all about women, but going to men who probably hadn't got a clue what menopause felt like, or perhaps it wasn't that then. But you know, how how was that, and how did that feel going into those rooms to say, right, this is what it is, this is the concept? Did they get it immediately? I don't mean that in a rude way, but actually, it's just as a woman, that's quite a challenge.
It was really hard.
Yeah.
Because it's hard because you're a woman, and the last thing in the world, this is a business and it's a huge market opportunity. This isn't a sob. But the initial reaction to anything where you talk about, so it's about connecting new mums was the first, iteration of Peanut. And the response is,
Bit condescending.
Bit like, that's nice. It's that reaction that's like, wow. And yet, Unilever, P&G, Nestle, all of these huge companies, all they talk to is that woman all day. But you don't say that that's nice.
Yeah.
So, and you have to set the scene in that way to frame it so that they understand, oh, you're right, that there is a difference in how and what she's building and who she's building for. So, look, it's extraordinarily difficult to empathise with an issue that you've never going to fully understand.
Yes.
And there was a lot of, I need to ask my assistant, niece, wife, girlfriend, calling someone in from, the floor to come in and talk to you about it. There was a lot of that. Are you sure you want to do this, Michelle? Why don't you do another dating app? You're great at dating apps. Like that I could get behind. And it's like, okay, there's a lot of those. No one's doing this. So I had a lot of that, and it was tiring and sometimes disgusting, and it was a hard period. We are getting better. I do think it's getting better. Either that, or I'm just getting a little bit more grumpy as well. So I say things as they are.
Yes.
I don't smile and tolerate like I used to, or kind of walk out and think, okay, that went horribly, but I'm not going to have that conversation with that person again. Whereas now I just will say it, in the room, and I don't really care. I'm a bit more stroppy, I think.
I could ask you 1,000 questions out, but one of my questions is, what was the pitch? How what was the pitch, and how are we going to make money for them? Do you know what I mean? Because as you said, you've only just monetized
we've only just started doing it. So the pitch was really around loneliness and isolation.
Right.
Like, loneliness and isolation is a problem which is growing, and it is an epidemic. We are more lonely as a society than we've ever been. We're reading medical reports every day that loneliness is as damaging to your health as 10 cigarettes a day. This is a real problem, and some of the life stages that women experience are the key moments at which you experience loneliness most poignantly, and yet are the moments where we can solve it most readily because you're most open to being and connecting. Yes. And also where you are really ready to commit to spend. So in all of those ways, we can do the most, and we can help the most women, and we can transform the most. In terms of a business and how people can get excited about the business opportunity, that's really just about knowing the stats and knowing the numbers and knowing how important that woman consumer is. And as soon as you frame it in an FMCG way, as soon as you understand that, oh, actually, you're right, that's exactly who their consumer is, it's a no-brainer from there.
Did you go to lots and lots of people? Or was it or was it a bit more
streamlined? No, listen, it's been a mix, I would say. So I was very lucky with the first round that I did. I knew people who knew me and what I'd done before.
Yeah, well, so there was confidence and trust.
And that was trust, and that was, but then there were moments in time where this is so hard. Building community is so hard. And also, women as a consumer, we're the most loyal and incredible consumer, but we are very opinionated. And if we love something, we love. And if something goes wrong, just one thing, we let you know. And so, there were periods where we had to work really hard to get all of our safety in place to make sure that our moderation was top notch. We've over-indexed in investment on technology for safety and privacy, and that's really important to our audience. And that's really hard for someone who's like, but on this new hacky growth product, and I'm like, I know, but that's aimed at teenage guys. that's not the same thing as this woman who is trusting us with pictures of her kids.
Yeah.
So there's been an education process there.
So interesting. And for people, what's your advice for women trying to raise money? That's probably a whole podcast in itself, but
I could definitely go into that.
But I'm dying. Yeah, what would your advice be?
If I were doing things over again,
Yeah.
and I were going fundraising for the first time again, I would be so deliberate about who I spoke to.
Right.
I think that there is a temptation when you're a bit green and you're just trying to get something off the ground, and you will entertain conversations which you already know instinctively are probably not going to go anywhere, or they don't understand the business, or they don't have a track record in investing in that industry. You know. And if you know, you have to say and cut it.
So the first thing there is follow your instinct.
Follow your
isn't it?
instinct.
Yeah.
The second thing is it's easy to forget that you're giving them something in return. They're not giving you money for free. It's not like it's not charitable.
Yes.
You're giving away equity in your business, which means that all of your sleepless nights and your, tireless work, they get that. And that's great, but it's not, you can't take investment at any cost. And truly, I always say to founders, if there's any other way that you can do this without taking money, do it for as long as you can. Do bootstrap, take a loan.
Yeah.
There are so many other ways that you can do it without giving away your equity, particularly from VC, because once you've taken venture capital, you're on their timeline. They need to get their return for the fund, and you're operating in a completely different world. Now, when you're really ready to do that because your product market fit is nailed and you know exactly what you're doing and how you're going to use the money, then go take their money and smash it. But don't do it too early. So if there's any other way of thinking about financing, you should. And I suppose the third thing is, naively, a lot of us think, oh, well, they invested in that other business, which is just like mine. I'll go and speak to them about mine. Well, they're not going to invest in both of you. And you're just going and showing your secret sauce to the wrong people.
Yeah.
So just because analogous businesses all day, the same business. No.
Yeah, well, that's such practical advice, and so easy to think, oh, that they must be interested.
They must love jewellery because they've done this jewellery and that jewellery. Well, that's great, but if it's the same market...
Yeah, don't give me your ideas. For God's sake.
That's not going to be the person for you.
So, Michelle, you'll probably think I'm mad how I've drawn this charm, but I've kind of visualised it as a Roy Lichtenstein kind of picture, slightly. And it says, in the middle, in capital letters, it says, wow, W-O-W. And I've put all of those, that's all in rubies, little pave rubies set on the whole of the letter. And then surrounding is like a big starburst, kind of where the wow sits in the middle of. And that's in white gold. And the wow is kind of sits on top of it. And there's kind of air between the starburst and the wow. And then you can see it's got a big exclamation mark, also in pave ruby set, with a tiny little pearl dangling from the exclamation mark, because I love my charms to have lots of movement and things. But, well, as you didn't tell me that's what the charm had to be, do you actually know what it is representing?
I don't, but I love it. I love it.
Okay, so I'll tell you what this is representing, because you said that you had a kind of wow moment. And I think your wow moment was when it was mentioned on the Netflix TV show. Do you want to tell me about that? Does that make sense, or do you think I'm completely mad?
Also, my house has a lot of like pop art. My husband's quite into that pop art style, so I love it.
I think wow on a million different wow for what you've done. Wow for anyway. Tell me about that.
It's gorgeous. We were watching TV. This is a few months ago, and I'm in bed. Actually, I say we. My husband was asleep, and I'm watching Netflix. And there's this new series that everyone's talking about. It's called Sex Lives. And it's, definitely aimed at adult women, let's say, but it's all about, women's like journeys through their real lives and what's happening at work and what's happening in relationships and not being able to get over an ex, and, very salacious and fun and American. And I was sitting watching it, and I got a text message saying, "Oh my God, are you watching Sex Lives?" So I replied saying, "Oh my God, I am actually. How great is this? Love it."
Yeah.
And she said, "No, what episode are you on?" I don't know. Last episode of the first series. She was like, "You have to go and watch episode 2 or 3 of the new series. They mention Peanut." What? And so I'm busy trying to find it, and then there it is. They talk about Peanut, and in the same breath that they talk about Twitter and Instagram, they talk about Peanut. And I prodded my husband. I was
Wake
like,
up!
"Oh my God!" And I was recording my TV. I mean, but I was so overwhelmed. I'm recording my TV, shaking, texting my whole team, like, "Oh my God, this is incredible." And then we start to get all the messages from users or from people that I know, like, "Oh, Michelle, have you seen Sex Lives? Like, they mentioned Peanut." I know. And it was just this amazing moment of like being culturally, like in pop culture.
Yeah, no, but that is so cool.
And it was so cool.
Yeah.
And I remember when something similar happened for Bumble in a movie, and Whitney had called me saying, "Oh my God, we're going to be mentioned," because obviously they were told, because it's a movie.
Yeah.
"We're going to be mentioned in this movie," and that was insane. But for Peanut, it took us a bit longer, but we got there.
Well, not that long.
But for Peanut to get there and get that moment was just insane. It's amazing.
Well,
I
it
still
just
love
feels like,
watching it.
as you say, absolutely just a normal part of culture.
Yeah.
That everybody...
And for this, and the way it was used in the terminology is for a young woman to be talking about, and do you know what Peanut is?
Yeah.
To be talking about relevance to women and mums. I was like, yes.
God, I mean, that's such an accolade anyway. So anyway, that's why I did this slightly mad wow.
I love the wow.
thing.
And
Described
wow.
terribly badly.
No.
But I'm dying to know, you've had various careers,
Yeah.
from law through to tech to more tech.
Yeah.
Would you ever consider doing anything else?
I don't know if I know how to do anything else. I am extraordinarily passionate about furthering women's advancement, and whether that is through helping women with their startups and mentoring in that way to the extent that I can, or investing. I am extraordinarily passionate, but truly I just like building, and I like the process and the thought of building things, and I don't know how to not do that.
And when you is the excitement, what is the excitement about building?
It's the obsession of the detail. Why did we put this there? What happens when we move it to here? What does the data say? Okay, move it back again. That kind of level of detail, right through to, does it resonate, what we're saying, how we're saying it, how is it being received, to seeing what's happening like culturally and thinking about how do we play into that and what's our voice going to be in that. So I think it's the whole process from detail to bigger picture. And the best part of Peanut is when I hear amazing stories that have happened and something happens. Or I was in a nail bar weeks ago and I was sat next to this woman, and she's a gynecologist and she's actually working on curing women's cancers. I mean, wow.
Wow. Yeah.
And I
Another
was just
wow.
a total wow. In fact, her bracelet is just wow. And I was kind of looking at her, like listening to these stories, and I was like, that's incredible. And then we started talking about her children, and she said, "Oh, there's this app, by the way, and it's called Peanut, and I think the founder lives around here."
Oh.
And I kind of looked, and she said, "Because I've seen him. He wears a sweatshirt with Peanut on." And I did. It's my husband. Obviously, I merch him.
Obviously.
And I didn't know what to say, and I kind of said, "Actually, I do know that app." And she was like, "Yeah, it's great. I've met this other person, and you should meet us for coffee." She was very, very sweet. And I said, "Actually, it's my app." And she was completely blown away. And moments like that are
Wow.
wow
Wow.
moments, yeah, and they're so exciting. And so I think the building process to then get to that point is that's amazing.
I so get that. I still
Must be like when you see someone wearing, you must be like,
yeah.
wow.
I'm like, oh. And it's and even when we still now, actually, which that brings me on very neatly to your last charm, which I was so absolutely thrilled when you agreed to come on the podcast, and then you sent me pictures of your Links of London bracelet. I was like, oh my god, that made me. Well, a bit like you in the nail bar. I was like, oh, that's so exciting to know that those things meant so much to you. But obviously, jewelry is, you've told me that jewelry is really important in your life. So, I mean, I've drawn your charm. Funnily enough, I was like, oh, this takes me down the memory lane a bit. But I've drawn it as the Links of London oval box, which your charms will have come in.
Yes.
So I've done it in yellow gold, black diamonds, little pave diamonds around the edge, which was what the logo looked like, the packaging looked like, and a bow in black diamonds. The lid comes off, and inside, probably really obvious, but I've just put a little carved coral peanut, just because, my whole thing when we had Links of London was, that this is the box that hid the bag that I can't remember what it was now, but that revealed the surprise that made you smile. And so for me, it was like going down memory lane. But more importantly, just tell me what does jewellery mean to you?
So interesting, because when I was growing up, my mum did not wear jewellery. She still doesn't wear jewellery, actually. It's not really her thing. And so for me, jewellery had this otherworldly quality where if I ever saw anyone wearing jewellery, I was very enamoured with it. And I really wanted to look and touch and I wanted to wear it, and it felt like something really glamorous. Felt really glamorous. And I was that girl who would track down the one W.H. Smith in Peterborough to buy the one copy of Vogue that they probably sold. And I kept them and I, would pore over them. That was me. So for me, jewellery was something that I couldn't wait to be able to access it. That was really how I felt. I couldn't wait for it to be me. And again, Peterborough, jewellery, we had, I think, an H. Samuel, and there was an Ernest Jones. But anyway, it was really an Argos, actually. When I was at school, a lot of people at school were wearing Argos jewellery. And that was it. There was nothing. So, I couldn't wait. But London, and coming to London meant that you could pore over and you could go and you might go to Selfridges or Harrods and you'd pore over and then you'd walk down from Selfridges and you'd walk past stores and and that was a moment for me of really feeling like you wanted to. So when I first got my Links bracelet, and I remember it very clearly. Also, my dad was, strange man. He used to give me cash. Always just a little wad of cash that he'd earned from a job or whatever. So I would have these
I love
little
that.
notes.
For those people that can't see what you're doing, actually, she's got, but it's not that little.
It was much littler than that. But a little. He would always have a little roll of notes anyway.
That, yeah.
And it felt so heavy, my little roll of notes, to go and get my Links bracelet. And I was using, money that I had or saved or gifted. And I remember the feeling so clearly. And from then on, everyone would get me a little charm, a Links charm, for a moment, birthday or whatever it might be.
So you had a sweetie bracelet,
I had the sweetie bracelet, and I loved it. And I even got the earrings to match because I was very, very, I loved that. Also because I was wearing little parts of myself on this bracelet. I love telling people, oh yes, well, ballet shoes. Well, actually, I used to do ballet. And, it was always a little part of me that I was able to tell. There's a starfish, and I have one of my very best girlfriends, I call her my starfish, and she bought it for me. And so there are amazing moments of that on that bracelet. And now my kids play with that, that is still in my drawer, and they go out and they play with it, and I love it.
I mean, you're my perfect ad, actually, because this whole concept of life in charms, because those charms are kind of absolute. They represent. You have just said exactly what my whole philosophy is. That they are all about key moments in your life, and I'm sure when your children grow up, or when Nula grows up and she wants to know what that starfish is, you'll tell her that your best friend is that, etc., etc. And that's what's so lovely about jewellery, because it's not necessarily all about how it looks. It's about the meaning of it, the moment, the moment that it marks, and all those special things.
And also how you feel, when I was wearing it, and that for me felt very like a moment of womanhood and
empowerment. Yeah.
I'd chosen it, and it was something that, I felt little parts of me were on my bracelet, and I felt very, confident with it. And also it felt so luxury. That felt glamorous. That felt like one of those moments where I'd seen other women and thought, oh, I want to, have that moment. And then, I had it. So for me, jewellery always feels like all of those things. And now, actually, jewellery is always very special with me and my husband. And he, is very thoughtful about it.
He buys your jewellery, does he? Do you buy jewellery for yourself still?
Actually, I do. But I'm much more... I'm always very thoughtful about what I want. And I buy jewellery for others. So... one of my best friends, who I went to law school with, who sadly doesn't live in this country anymore, she moved away, and she was getting married and having a wedding here, and I bought her an Annoushka, but it was her something blue.
Oh.
So and so that it's moments like that that are very, I want her to always wear it, and it's tiny, it's beautiful. It's the one with little tiny leaves on, and. I want her to wear it and think of me, obviously, and I was her bridesmaid, and what an honour. But also, I want her to wear it all the time and
remember.
Also have those moments. Yeah,
that's so. Anyway, it's. I'm so thrilled that I'm talking to you today, and the first bit of jewellery bought was linked. It's really exciting. Michelle, it's been such a pleasure to talk to you. I could talk to you all day.
Same.
I've got so much to ask you, but anyway. But my last question is, I'd like to make you one of these charms to say thank you so much for coming and chatting to me, and I wondered which one you would like.
Oh, I'm going to get emotional again. They are all so beautiful. I'm going to say the peanut, because it can have my little ones as part of it too.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that, because when I drew it, I was like, oh no, that is just perfect.
It's and everything about what I've been doing. So I'm going to say the peanut.
Okay. Well, it's going to be a real pleasure to make that for you. Anyway, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Oh.